Crafting a Meaningful Life.
Turn off the thinking brain and let your heart listen. Something that I say along the way will touch you. I know it. Let's begin that process of crafting a meaningful life.
Here's Mary Crafts.
Hi, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life with Mary Crafts. I'm thrilled to be with you again. It's another week, another day to start crafting that life. Those of you who've been with me for a long time know that I just love starting the week with you and being part of your lives and you being part of mine. We're growing this together. And if you haven't been with me very long, then you don't know that I'm about to blow your mind with my interesting guest today. Last week, I gave you a little bit of teaser on Mr. Eric Harrison. And, I usually interview people that I know and I know very well. Well, I know Eric. Do we know each other very well?
Well enough.
Well enough. I like that because we all practice what? Being enough. So Eric has written an absolutely incredible book. Eric, tell us a little bit about your book.
The name of my book is, first of all, before I go any further, thank you, Mary, for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Appreciate it.
It's an honor, serious.
Yes, it's an honor for me. I've been listening to your podcast, and I think I told you a little bit earlier, everything that you've been talking about over the last several podcasts have hit me just right on in my heart. It's been amazing. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all your guests. So This is tremendous.
Thank you. Thank you.
The name of my book is Life's Twist, Navigation for Life's Winding Roads. The book, I'll tell you a quick story of how it all came about. Probably about, I would say, 6 years ago, life was a little rough for me. Was out of work. My mother had just passed away.
Wow.
And from pancreatic cancer. I had 3 teenage boys. Need I say more?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 teenage boys. Things were a little bit rough in my household. The marriage was a little shaky. Things were a little off. And one of my good friends said, "Hey, man, guess what? I'm going to come and get you, and we're going to go have a beer, and we're going to listen to some great music." And I was down in the
Any
dumps.
day, any time.
Yes, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I go with him. We grab our beers, and the music's great, and I'm, kind of grooving a little bit, and then all of a sudden, I feel this pain in my chest, and I'm like, okay, the first thing that I thought of was, what did I eat today? What happened? And then the pain got worse. As time went on, and I said, man, I got to go outside and get some air. I don't understand this. What's happening? So I go outside, and with each step, it felt like claws were digging into my chest, and I could feel that pain increasing more and more.
Did you know at that time what this was?
I had an idea. I thought that maybe it's a heart attack or whatever. I don't know. Us men, we always think we can get through anything, and it's not that. Exactly. So I got to my car, and by the time I got to my car, I literally almost collapsed on the top of my car. That pain was so excruciating.
Ooh.
And my buddy came outside. He knew something wasn't right. He said, "Man, what's going on with you?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't feel right. Something's wrong. Take me home." So we went home first, and I go home, and I go do the thing that you really should not do when you have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I lay down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to feel better. I'm tough. All I got to do is drink a 7-Up and, I'll feel better. Something like that.
I just need a little effervescence.
Right.
Give me some Pepto-Bismol.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, I'm going to be okay, But no, that was not the case. And, my wife at the time was like, you need to go now. And I went, and I'm Mr. Tough Guy. I walk to the car, and I'm okay. And I walk into the emergency room, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I get in the triage, I collapse on the desk. And I just say, I whisper, I said, I think I'm in cardiac arrest.
Wow.
And everything was in a frenzy from there. And they rushed me into the operating
Code
room.
1.
Yes.
Code 1.
Yes. And I'm hearing all these noises, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And they begin to, work on me, and they find out kind of what's going on, and they do this procedure. And to fast forward a little bit, they do the procedure, and they wheel me into a room, and it was in intensive care. And I'm kind of feeling okay. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better. I don't feel the pain as much anymore. But then I see all these faces peering at me through this window.
Mm.
My best friends,
Oh.
my sons, family members, and all of them are crying. Crying like nobody's business. I mean, the toughest guys in the world that I grew up with, they're crying. And one of them looked in the room and said, man, I can't even look at you right now. I got to go. So me, with my mindset, I'm like, oh my God, am I disfigured? And I called a nurse and I'm like, nurse, can I have a mirror? Like, what's wrong with me? So I get the mirror and I look okay. The doctor walks in the room. He sits next to me, pulls the chair up, and he puts his hand on my arm. And I'm looking like, Doc, what's up? He says, you had what was called the widowmaker. About 3% of the people that have the widowmaker make it. You're not supposed to be here right now.
Wow.
And with that being said, that's when my life changed. I lost about 85 pounds after that. And I started to feel better physically, but mentally and spiritually, I was off.
Mm.
And I couldn't understand it.
So let's just stop right there for just a second. So
Yes.
after this widowmaker experience with your
Yes.
heart attack,
Yes.
and it was transformational enough, it had enough impact that you went on pretty severe weight loss and
Yes.
and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But that you did not do it simultaneously with changing your mindset and heart.
Exactly.
Wow.
So on the
Because
outside,
usually in order to be able to do that, you have to do that simultaneously.
yes, but I can tell you why I was able to do that. I was able to do that because I'm an athlete. I've
Oh,
been an
sure.
athlete all my life.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, guys. He's 6'6" and he's from Chicago. Okay, so yeah, he played a little basketball.
Exactly. So it's to lose weight and to get focused on that. Now as I think about it, and as you mentioned that was really more of a distraction for me, really dealing with the maybe we can call it the real problem or the real things that I was
real
dealing
heart,
with. Right.
the real heart problem.
Exactly. The real issue. And it's funny you say that. We'll get to that in a moment. So I realized I'm like, I'm off. I'm still off. What's going on? I went back and I got a nice consulting gig. Things were picking up, but I was still off. I was yelling at people. I was talking to my sons crazy. I was doing things that I didn't normally do. And that's when I realized that my head and my heart wasn't right. It wasn't right. And I got some counseling, but the only thing that opened me up was to go back and pick up the pen and get a pad, and I began to write. And things began to open up for me. And that's where many of the things you see in that book, that's where that came from. I had questions. Man, what's going on with me? And one of the chapters is self. What's going on with me? Well, who am I? What's going on? Why do I think the way I think? What's really going on with me? And that's where most of the content from that book came from, is me introspectively going into myself and then pulling that out and just pouring it all over those pages. And that's what happened. And that's how that got published.
So many of my listeners, we're in this process together. We're just taking it day at a time, looking at our hearts, our minds, trying to get them into alignment.
Yes.
And being vulnerable enough to say, I sometimes don't feel like I'm enough. I sometimes have fears.
Exactly.
And so this relates to, I'm sure everyone out there can relate to at some point in time when they've felt similar things.
Yes.
But it's what you do with that feeling that makes the
Exactly.
difference. Some people just keep
Exactly.
wallowing in that feeling of, so I'm not quite right. I'm not quite right.
Right.
And that definition of insanity, just keep doing the same thing, still not quite right.
Exactly.
But you took it to another step beyond just keep doing the same thing. How did you make that happen for you? I mean, you wrote, but you had to, something came before that pen started moving.
Well, one of the major things is I mentioned my boys, and I mentioned my family, I mentioned my friends, and then also I was involved with many different organizations, helping people and different things of that nature. But then I started realizing that how can I truly help those people if I'm not right? What's really going on with me? And I would sit there with counselors and people like that, and they would talk to me, and it was good. It was almost like it led me to the water, but I had to kneel down and dip my hand into the water and bring the water to my mouth and drink. And that's what writing did. And I realized that if I did not do that, then my sons may go through some of the same things that I went through. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. And I needed to get that out so that they can understand, hey, what's really going on with dad, number one. And then number two, if you ever have some of these same feelings, it's almost like a reference. And the reason why I wrote the book, and one of the things that I came up with over time is do what you love to do for the people you love so that you can build a rich and long-lasting legacy. And that's where the book came from. And it wasn't even about selling the book. It was just like almost a manual for me to get better. And then also for my boys. My boys, and they've all read the book, and they said, Dad, one of them, Miles, my youngest, he's the jokester. He's like, Dad, you are going crazy. And I was like, yeah, son, I was, but I'm good now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what prompted me to put pen to paper. You know, I wanted to be able to tell this story for my family more so than anything. And it's actually, been something that other people have read, and it's kind of helped them as well.
You know, something you said was very profound to me when you said you felt like you were led to the water.
Yes.
And the water was being shown to you. And, people who listen to my podcast probably listen to other podcasts. They read books of inspiration, all sorts of things. And that takes you to some point that's showing the water to you.
Yes.
But until what you said, kneel down and actually use your own efforts to reach into that water and scoop it up to your mouth, you have to be actively involved in the process. It's not just enough to listen to these podcasts, guys.
Exactly.
You have to make changes, and you have to reach in with your own hands, your own effort to make that different.
And also, Mary, get this. Remember what I said? I said kneel down.
Yeah.
So kneeling is humbling yourself.
Yes. And becoming teachable.
And getting out of your own mind.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
Getting rid of those old mindsets and saying, hey, you know what? In order for me to get to another level, in order for me to get over this thing, in order for me to improve or to really be able to help people, I have to take the time to humble myself and open myself to new things, new possibilities. And that's exactly what I did. I hadn't written, I had not written since I was in grammar school. And the reason why, we mentioned basketball, it's not cool for a basketball player to be writing poetry and short stories. Come on, really? Dude, what's up with you? Come on, man, let's go play.
But I love your poetry.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. The girls did love it back then, too. They like basketball, too. So I chose
why all the women are
basketball.
swooning all over you. Okay, great.
I chose basketball, but, and it's just funny how I was taken back to those moments. And I remembered, I said, man, I had such peace when I was writing. And it was just natural, and it came to me. And some of the pieces in that book, it was like in between meetings. I'd be in a meeting, and all of a sudden something would hit me, and then I just write. I started writing, and then before I know it, that thing is done. It's 2 pages. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So that's how it all came about.
And that's a little key that, like, when you arrived here today, I gave you a little journal to keep at your desk at work, and just to write those thoughts as they come to you. And if that's something that you're not doing, when I travel, I have a little leather journal that I carry with me. Yeah. But on a daily basis, I carry a Samsung Note 9. So I have the notepad with the pen, and I have the same phone. You have the same phone. So I can just write things as they come to me. Yes. In fact, you and I have been together, and I've gotten out that note and just started writing, this is profound. Talk about this, remember this. And those are some of the times when inspiration comes. I think about how many times when you and I have just been talking, just doing nothing more than sharing a conversation. And when we're done, we have said to each other, golly, people should have been listening. We were so profound.
Yes. Yes, yes. See, and I want to share something with you. This is something that came to me a couple of days ago. We always talk about how people motivation is the biggest thing going right now. Podcasts, books, television, YouTube, social media, motivation, motivation, motivation. And people are being pushed to go to the next level. Hey, you can do it. You can do it. You can be pushed. But something came to me. I was talking to my son, Miles, and there's a such thing as a pull. And what the pull is, this is what a pull is. If you're around people that have achieved great things and that are doing great things, and they are really your friends, and they see that you may not be achieving or doing all the things that they believe you can do, and they're not looking down at you at all. They're not saying that you're not enough, but they know that there's more in you, that you can do more. And by the way, Mary's been doing that to me, so let's just be transparent here. But anyway,
Well, I
moving right
did.
along.
I think the first time we were, well, not maybe the second time we were together, I said, you know what? I want to be your champion.
Oh my God, that statement. Anyway,
But I think that has such
Yes.
power
It-
when you
it
can
is.
find a champion and when you can be a champion for others.
yes, yes,
We all need a champion in our lives.
yes,
And that just keeps us, on the track and
Yes.
moving forward and hopefully upward. And then the greater gift to be a champion for someone is a gift to yourself and to them.
Yes.
I love that because we
Yes.
both believe that giving and receiving are the same
the same
thing. They
thing.
trigger the
Yes.
same endorphins in the
Yes.
brain.
yes, and that's awesome.
Part of being a champion for you was reading this beautiful book that you gave me. And I absolutely loved it. And I loved it for a lot of reasons. First of all, because it evoked emotions inside of me and got me to look and examine me, which is probably one of your goals.
Yes,
But also when you write, first you write beautifully, but you speak so naked. I could just picture you like being completely buck naked and writing this because you held nothing back. You were real, you were raw, you were full of emotion to the point that I really stepped into your life and I began to see who you were. And then in turn, could feel that in my life, those pivotal points, those points that were learning points for me, and the points that are yet to be your learning points for me. So I have this book here in my hand, and I read this. He said to me, now some people will think this is a quick read, and some people will take it as a long read. I prefer you take it as a long read. And since it was a gift, I took it as a long read. So I read this on the plane down to Austin and back from Austin. And as you can see,
oh wow,
different things that I wrote in this book. Parts about, I love this part. And question marks where I'm like, seriously? I don't know if that's true or not. I need this part here. I wrote, talk to Eric about this. Okay. And then you gave a metaphor about chewing glass. Next to that, I wrote, this metaphor is too harsh for me. It doesn't show any self-love at all when you talk about chewing glass, But I loved this book. And so people can either purchase, where do they purchase this book?
You can pick the book up on Amazon. It is on Amazon, and it's also on my website, which is expressyourperspective.com.
Oh, wow. Oh, speaking of express your perspective, of course, I follow you on Instagram. And I try and limit myself 15 minutes a day to social media. But you are one that I check every single day because there's always something inspirational there, something that lifts me, doesn't push me, but it lifts me. And I love that piece. And so if you want to follow Eric on Instagram, you can easily do that. It's just express your perspective.
Yes, express your perspective. Yes.
And you'll see me commenting every now and then, And my Instagram is more just about me and my life and what's happening. And it's less inspirational, but yours is 100% inspirational. And I love people who have Instagrams like that. I wish mine was more like that.
Well, first of all, a lot of it has excerpts from the book. That's one thing. And then again, I may have mentioned the way that I wrote that book. it's not something, it's not prose where you can just sit and I just wrote a story from beginning to end, but it's short stories. It's poetry. It's anecdotes. It's those types of things. And that's kind of how I think. So my posts are kind of the same thing. Something will come to me about, work or, anything. And then I'll just write it. And then I always try to put some type of image with it or something like that to get people motivated. And well, we talked about motivation and inspiration, but, to get them going to the next level.
So I guess I'm curious as to what's next for Mr. Eric. We've talked a lot about that in our conversations as we lift each other to that. And we both are public speakers. You're an author. I'm a wannabe author. Okay.
Soon to be author.
Yep.
Let's change that.
Yep. Soon to be author.
Yes.
I told my publisher today I had 4 books inside of me, and they said, no, I think it's more 7. I said, okay, I like 7. Seven's
sounds about right.
That 7's a good number.
Yeah.
But I always think, what's next for you now? I mean, now you're speaking. You have something coming up in Boston, and tell us about that. What are you doing there?
I have an amazing opportunity coming up in Boston, April 20th. I'll be out there, and I'll be speaking and a part of a interactive discussion panel where we'll talk about, and this is the subject, retreat, rediscover, and reconnect. One of the things that I did with that book.
Let's hear that. Retreat.
Yes.
Rediscover.
And reconnect.
And reconnect.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. So the retreat piece deals with, we get so caught up in our daily lives, our families, our work, our businesses. And sometimes we need to take the time to back away from some of those things and really look at ourselves and begin to really dig deep and see, again, we've talked about our whys and all of that type of stuff, where you can rediscover, that's the second thing, what those things are.
I like that.
And then once you do that,
you get to reconnect. And
you're better than ever.
I like that.
And, one of the things I deal with in my book are motives as well. So when you do that, then your motives are clear as well. You know why you do.
Yeah, the serving piece, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, people love to serve if the media or social media is watching. And if it's not watching, sometimes we forget that piece. Yeah, I think that's understanding our whys to the nth degree. So when you look at your why, Eric, and you think why you're writing these books, why you're speaking, exactly what is your why?
That's really simple for me. The first thing that comes to mind is when I wrote that book, it was not about writing something that's going to be shared with the masses and with the world. It was something that I want to share with my sons. I at times, I probably wasn't the best dad in the world, and I probably was, off in my own head doing certain types of things, and maybe they didn't understand. So one of the reasons why I wrote that is I wanted them to get a look-see inside their dad to see what he was really thinking and why he was doing what he was doing. And then the other piece is this, so that if they ever went through some of those same things, it's almost like a manual or something where they can say, hey, you know what? Dad went through this. I think I'm okay too. I can get through it as well. Now, what's happened is that was my why, but sometimes your why somehow gets expanded. And when other people hear your why and they hear the result of your why or see the result of your why, they get blessed as well. And that's kind of what happened with this book.
And I think that this is not new to my listeners, but that piece of vulnerability that you were willing to show to your sons and the world of your journey and where you ended up with that will be of great strength to them. It was a great strength to me to read it. Even though we came from 2 completely different walks of life, the underlying principles of life and lift and joy, and they're the same for all people. The underlying principles of fear, they're the same. that fear of not being enough. No, it doesn't have any other reason other than that. Eric, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're just such an amazing individual, and I will love to keep my eyes on you and be your champion as you continue to soar to new heights.
There's that word again.
Yeah.
And by the way, I received that, Barry. So everyone, I had to get myself to the place. When she first said that knocked me back. You don't hear very many people say that. I know you guys just heard that and it's like, champion, who says that? Who did? Mary says that, and she means it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And most of my listeners know that I am their champion. I am your champion, guys. That's why I do this every week and love to spend time with you. I cheer you on. I joy with you. I love with you. I lift with you. Until next time, keep crafting that meaningful life.
Listen to the full podcast today and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more. Crafting a Meaningful